Welcome back to the subject Object-Oriented Analysis and Design. Today's topic is Interactive Development, Time-Boxed Interactive Development, Evolutionary and Adaptive Development, Evolutionary Requirement and Analysis. Let us understand what is an interactive development. So this is an approach to build the software in which the overall life cycle is composed of several interactions in sequence. So each interaction is a self-contained mini project. So this means this interactive development can be done among the developers. So once the problem statement is divided into the modules, each and every module is assigned to a batch of the people. And this batch developer will complete the task within the time duration of the time, whatever the time which is assigned for them. Within the time, this batch people has to develop that. Based on that development, they used to frequently interact among the batches and then they go for enhancing the project. So here it composed of activities such as requirement analysis, designing, programming, and testing. So among all these stages, they will be having frequent interactions among the developers. The main goal for the end of an interactive is a stable, integrated, and tested partially complete the system. So to be clear, understand all the software across all the teams is integrated into a release each interaction. So most interaction releases are internal, like the baseline primarily for the benefit of the development team. So they are not released to the externally to the end user or to the users. So the final interaction release is a complete product. Then that will be released to the market or to the client. So let us have a look to the interactive development. So if you see in this diagram, each and every there is a development like building for some requirements. It is taking 3 weeks of interaction. So this time duration is fixed at the time of doing the analysis. So at the time of analysis, they'll be fixing the time for each and every module. So once that module is completed, they'll be fixing the time based on the complexity and based on the type of the software to be developed. They'll be taking the feedback of the existing work and then go for enhancing further. So these interactions will be completed until the end product is released to the end user. So this is a frequently continued process that will be done among the total duration of the time which is taken to complete the software development. Coming to the time box interactive development. So just now we discussed that interactive development can be done among the team members. So this time box is nothing but fixing a time for a particular interaction. Based on that particular interaction, they go for enhancing and they go for changing. So let us see the diagram so that we can clearly understand here. So this graph will represent for single interaction. So at the time of this interaction, we'll be discussing the total requirements, the design, implementation, and the test that is done for a duration of the time. So if you think that this is for 3 weeks of time or for 4 weeks of the time, within the time, what is the enhancement that is done? They'll be interacting and discussing among the team members. So this is nothing but a 3-week interaction and a mini project that includes the work in most discipline. So for every 3 weeks or for every 2 weeks, this time will be fixed and interactions can be done among the developers. So although an interaction can be theory be only for cleanup or performance tuning, usually a partial system grows incrementally with the new features interaction by interaction. So whenever it depends on interaction to the interaction, future enhancement can be done with the project. So the concept of growing a system via interactions has been called interactive and incremental development. Although simply interactive development in common we can call. Like some olden process literatures use the term called incremental development to means a combination of frozen upfront sequences following by interactive development often features, but there is no widespread agreement on usage. So the next topic is nothing but an incremental. So this is also a type of interactive. It is incremented. It is similar like the evolutionary. Like the time box is for each and every evolutioner. So this is also a style is mostly the same as interactive. It looks similar to start with. The teams are still hopeful, doing good stuff and interacting. So though they are frequently interacting, if there is some drawback of lagging in enhancing the project, then obviously they can shift to the incremental. So at a very least, they are demonstrating the software and listening to the feedbacks. Most likely, they are developing the software and users can start using it today. So in this kind of incremental process, once the total project is completed and it is released to the end user will start using that products. It's like this is a kind of black box testing. So black box testing is nothing but once a product is developed and it is released to the user, they start using. So while they are using that product, it is under the observation of the developer. If there is any bugs or if any kind of issues that is raised with that kind of software, the user comes back to the developer and they go for doing the modification. So whenever the product is released and again it is coming back to enhance, so such kind of process is called as an incremental process. So based on the feedback of the user, they go for enhancing and do the modification for the software. So this is nothing but evolutionary. For every time, this evolutionary takes place incrementally, doing the modification frequently. So this every evolution is nothing but iterative development implies that the requirements and planning. So based on the requirements, the plan will be continued and modifications can be done frequently and it is a continued process. So this evolutionary requirement analysis is nothing but in evolutionary and adaptive development, it is not the case that the requirements are forever unbounded or always changing at a high rate. So rather, most requirements discovered and refined usually occurs during earlier interactions and the earliest attention is given to understand the most architecture significant or high business value requirements. So for example, on an ultimately 20 interaction projects, for example, if you fix that 20 interaction for a particular project, within the 20 interaction, mostly requirement will be discovered and refined within the first 3 or 4 weeks. Because up to the end of that project, they can't continuously interact and take the information and go for doing the modification because these kind of process can be done for a small time duration of the projects. It is not used for a long duration of the kind of development projects to be developed. So the time will be fixed among the 3 months or 6 months. Within the short month, if their interactions are done among the team members for continuously, they can't go for enhancing and do the modification. So they fix a time box within that interaction meetings. They'll be sticking for whatever the conditions or whatever the requirements that they had collected at the initial stages. So based on that, they go for enhancing the product. So if you see in this graph, what exactly the interactions in the each and every interaction, they'll be collecting the requirements and enhancing the software. So if you see the graph, the first interaction, 20% of requirements are collected and a 2% of software is developed. And in the second interaction, 30% of requirement is collected, only 3% of software is built. And interaction 5, 50% of requirement is collected and 8% of project. So if you see this, every time in each and every interaction, collecting the requirements and a little bit a small growth we can find in the software development. Like this is nothing but doing a continued process for each and every interaction. We go for enhancing that based on the requirement, based on the feedback. So in each interaction, there is a 1 or 2 day requirements workshop in which the specifications explained and refined in response to further analysis and feedback from the system under development. So this will be a continued process in developing the software. For example, the first workshop focus on dealing analysis of 20% of the most architecturally significant and risk requirements. This gives the software architect enough meaningful input to start development and test in short cycles. So note as a design commitment that it is not true that 100% of the functional requirements need to know to start building an excellent core architecture. So the architecture needs to know most non-functional or quality requirements. So that is nothing but much smaller representative subset of functional requirements are going to be done. So this is all about the evolutionary requirement. So in case of evolutionary requirements, evolutionary can be done based on the interactions. So in each and every interaction, they'll be collecting the requirements and then they go for developing the software. So this is a continued process and it can be done in an incremental way. So when it comes to the interactive development, there is a time box which is fixed for each and every team members, and whatever the progress of the work is there based on the interaction, they'll go for enhancing the project. So this is all about the topic. Thank you.